Zach here from Universal Air. We're going to go ahead and develop a kit for the new Prius Prime. Today we're going to be working on measuring out and designing a kit for a 2019 Prius Prime. So here's the factory rear suspension. They have a set of the teen coilovers on here. We're going to look at replacing out this rear shock absorber, along with building a bracket and bag setup to go in place of where the spring goes. So we went ahead and got the rear shocks removed, got the suspension compressed all the way up. And at this point right now, we're about a 1/4 inch from the tire hitting the inner fender well, but the upper control arm is coming in contact with the cross member. Of course, you can always clearance out that cross member to get the last little bit of drop, but let me go ahead and show you where it's hitting at. So as it sits right now, this lower control arm is hitting the cross member here, and then the upper control arm is almost coming in contact with the subframe of the vehicle. As it stands now, when we compress the suspension all the way up from the center of the hub all the way up to the inner fender well, we're sitting at 12.5 inches, and the tire, it would be at 12.25. So we're a 1/4 inch away from that inner fender well. Of course, once you put the weight of the vehicle on it, this little bit will start to flex to get you that last little bit of drop. So now we'll go ahead and measure between the upper bag mount and the lower control arm. Go ahead and build up our adapters to put in place and call it good. So with our measurements taken, we're going to make a bracket that's going to slide over this upper nipple to locate it and come down for the space we need for our bags to be compressed all the way. And for this lower control arm, we're going to make a bracket to locate off of this bottom nipple as well. So that way the bag will sit right inside this lower control arm and have nothing close to it to rub. Now that we have our measurements done for the rear, let's go ahead and do a model of it, of what we're going to make, and start making some parts for test fits. Now that we have it all modeled up and cammed up, let's go out and make some parts. So here's our first bracket that we cut. Went in and threw a little die-cum on it so that way we can mark it. Let's go ahead and put it up in here. So close. Let's go ahead and rub it, see where it's at. We do have a little bit of rock in there, so we're close, but not quite there. And with that, we can tell we need to open up right in there where you can see the shiny parts. Let's go ahead and recut it and give it a shot. So off camera, I went ahead and reran it, tightened up a little bit in the middle, down here at the bottom. Now it fits in there absolutely perfect. No wobble, no shake. Perfect. Now off camera, I've done the same thing for the lower arm. And with that in there, fits in there perfect. No wiggle. We're just above the nipple, so we don't have to worry about that hitting the bag. It is ready to go. We're gonna go ahead and pull apart the front and measure out for the struts themselves so we can make up the brackets to bolt onto the spindle, as well as the upper strut mount to go to the chassis of the car. So with the wheel removed, what we're gonna do is measure out the mounting points for the strut to the spindle and the different type accessory brackets it has for the wheel speed sensor, for the brake lines. Got these little brackets designed up so that way it'll be a direct bolt in, along with the sway bar in-link mount. And then that's about it for this side. This is between the bolts, diameter, strut offset from spindle, sway bar mount location, and ABS and brake lines. Here we go. So we're back here in the office, and with all the measurements we took out in the shop, we're gonna go ahead and model up what the struts need to be like. That way we can start working on making the bodies. Now we have all the parts made up. Let's go ahead and mock it up together to throw in the car. So we go ahead and take our upper mount that we made that matches the nipple, our 2 spacer plates we made up. Go ahead and mock it up on the top side. Bolt up the bottom. We'll put it in the car. So here we are fully compressed. We do have clearance all the way around the bag, so we don't have to worry about rubbing the control arm. Even though we did tuck it down underneath it, we got plenty of space. We are fully compressed. The control arm is coming in contact with the body up here. The lower control arm is coming in contact with the cross member, along with the upper control arms almost touching the cross member up here. So I'm going to call that good to go. Fully compressed, we are almost laying tire on inner fender well. So at this height, really can't go any lower unless we start cutting off of that control arm, along with cutting off of this upper control arm. A little tip for you guys, go ahead and remove the upper shock mount when you go to remove the shock, along with, in order to get the shock itself off, you actually remove the whole mount out by this hex right here. Go ahead and put your ratchet on there and unthread the mount out from the bottom. This thing is a nightmare to try to get the slide off. The only way we can get it off, and in this case back on, is by removing this upper mount. We're able to jack up the suspension enough to where we're able to thread in that lower mount over on this backside right here. Yeah, it's definitely very challenging of a shock mount to do. And like that, we're back the way it was when it rolled in. We have everything mocked up, test fit, ready to go. We're gonna get the struts built up and the bags put on them, ready for the customer, and we'll bring you back in to see what it looks like laid out. All right, it's time for us to start working on the front struts. We do end up completely disassembling the struts in order to do the modifications that we want to. So here we are with our dampers all broken down. We have the threaded body here, the shock shaft with the piston assembly, the top gland, the retaining ring, the circlip, and the separator piston. Now we're going to go ahead and modify this and then get the unit reassembled so we can put the air spring over the top of it. So with that, we have the bag's front struts fully assembled. We modified the internals of the strut so that we can get our smooth ride that we're so known for. Now what's left is we got to put a air fitting adapter into the air port, and then we'll go ahead and put this in our bucket of water, air everything up, and go ahead and check for any leaks. And then from there, we need to assemble the rest of the strut with the bottom adapter. All right, here we go. We got these units all assembled up. We have our adapter into the bag for the leader hose to connect to it. We have this just loosely assembled on for the customer to make his adjustments for his overall coilover length. Top mount is silky smooth for rotation. So that's going to bolt up to the car. This bottom clevis is designed to bolt onto the spindle. Of course, you got a sway bar tab, brake line brackets, and stuff like that. So now let's go move on to the rear. Okay, so for the rear, we're going to go ahead and disassemble this rear shock. Go ahead and do our modifications to the inside of it, then reassemble it back together so it'll be ready for the vehicle. So here's the rear bag and bracket you saw us designing it last time. We're going to stack these mounts there. That's going to bolt there, all on top of the airbag. And then this bottom bracket's going to bolt onto the bottom side of the bag. That's going to fit inside the spring pocket where the coil spring used to go. So here's our completed assembly. We have the upper mount bolted on with the spacers. We have the clearance for our fitting to come through here. This vehicle, they are running 1/4-inch airline. And then on the bottom, we have the bottom adapter bolted on. It's going to go against the nipple on the lower control arm. The top one's going to go against the one off of the unibody coming down. So here's our kit all ready to get packed up to be shipped out. Thankfully, this is for a local customer, so we'll be able to show you the final results once we get it installed on the vehicle. So today we made a little road trip, came out over here to Air Ride Equipped, where they did the full install on the Prius. Let's check it out. All right, turned out pretty well. We're gonna have to replace out that sticker that's on there. It's no longer on Tyne, it's now on Universal Air. And who says a Prius can't be cool? go take a quick run through Air Ride Equipped. Looks like he's working on a charger, cord, and Q60, I believe. So they do a lot of cars in here for Air. So this is the man, the myth, the legend, Sal. He turns out all these nice high-end cars. There's Arturo, the other tech here, working hard. Any questions or comments, please leave them below. Hope you liked the video. If so, give us a big thumbs up and see you on the next video.